On the 10th of June 1990, the decomposing corpse of respected Lucchese Captain Mike Salerno was found stuffed in the trunk of a black Jaguar in the Wakefield section of the North Bronx. So, what do we know about Mike Salerno, and why was he murdered? Michael Salerno was born in New York in 1923. His parents were Patrick and Mary. A US census in 1940 shows the 17-year-old Michael Salerno living with his parents, sisters and two brothers at 361 East 159th Street in the Bronx. Historically, a large part of the Bronx and Harlem had predominantly been the power base of what is now known as the Lucchese crime family. Little is known about his early life, although he did have a conviction for robbery at the start of the 1940s, and at some point he became involved with organised crime. In 1946, the 23-year-old Michael Salerno was arrested for loan sharking. He was identified by a nurse who owed him money, after she herself was arrested for stealing cash to make her payments. As one newspaper reported, Patricia Murray, a red-headed nurse, was accused yesterday of taking the bankroll of a middle-aged gentleman friend with whom she had shared a hotel room one day last week. Patricia, 31, admitted everything yesterday. But there was a reason for taking the money, she said. She was being hounded, she charged, by a loan shark who was demanding $310 interest on a $700 loan. As a result, Miss Murray had company in the police lineup. The purported shark, Michael Salerno, 23, of 304 East 110th Street, was arrested on a usury charge. Miss Murray, who traces all her troubles to playing the horses as well as stud poker, told police Salerno threatened to kill her if she failed to come across with the $1,010. In 1953, Vincent Rayo, the captain of the Lucchese crime family's famous 107th Street Harlem crew, became consigliere to boss Tommy Lucchese. Reports suggest that his crew was split between Giovanni Big John Ormento and Salvatore Tom Mick Santoro, as shown in the following FBI file. East 107th Street produced members for both the Thomas Lucchese and Vito Genovese families respectively, under Vincent John Rayo and Michael Coppola for the respective families. Ciro Terranova, also known as Ciro Morel, was Caporegime prior to Coppola, and Rayo was succeeded as Caporegime by Salvatore Santoro and John Ormento. John Ormento would control the 107th Street Harlem crew, and Tom Mick Santoro became captain of a new crew in the Bronx. We can speculate that Michael Salerno was affiliated with Salvatore Tom Mick Santoro's Bronx crew. Sadly, I can't confirm if Michael Salerno was inducted into the Lucchese crime family in the 1950s before the books were closed, or in the early wave of inductions in 1976 after the books were opened again. In 1959, Tom Mick Santoro received a 20-year sentence for narcotics trafficking, and his crew was taken over by Joseph Joe Cap Capra. In 1963, Mike Salerno received a weapons charge. After Tom Mick Santoro was released from prison in the late 1970s, he would quickly become underboss to Anthony Tony Ducks Corallo, who by this time was the boss of the Lucchese crime family. Michael Salerno had become wealthy, with a large portfolio of loans out on the street, and it is said that he was close with Christopher Christie Tick Furnari, who would become consigliere of the crime family in the early 1980s. In 1986, Michael Salerno was promoted and became captain of the Bronx-based crew. One source states that Michael Salerno's loan sharking operation was worth over $7 million, but this is unconfirmed. Jerry Capisi and Tom Robbins wrote of Salerno in the book Mob Boss. He lived in an upscale town in Westchester County, wore expensive jewelry, and drove luxury cars, a Jaguar and a Cadillac. His base of operations was a triangular brick building at the corner of Williamsbridge Road and Allerton Avenue in the northeast Bronx, where he ruled from a storefront under a sign reading, "Larry's Tobacco and Candy." Sources indicate that members of Mike Salerno's crew allegedly included the likes of Joey Giampa, Johnny Hooks Capra, Anthony Blue Santorelli, Joseph Di Napoli, Salvatore DiSimone, and Daniel Squires Latella. Lucchese crime family boss Anthony Tony Ducks Corallo was sentenced to 100 years in prison in January 1987 after the famous commission trial, along with his underboss Salvatore Tom Mick Santoro and consigliere Christie Tick Furnari. However, the Lucchese crime family already had a new hierarchy in place for 2 months, since November 1986. Vic Amuso was the new boss, with Mariano Macaluso as underboss, and Attore Eddie Coco as consigliere. Anthony Gaspipe Casso would take over as Amuso's consigliere sometime in 1987. And 2 years later, in 1989, Anthony Casso had become underboss to Vic Amuso. Later that year, Mike Salerno was approached by Little Al Diaco, who was captain of the deceased Paulie Vario's Canarsie crew. Little Al had an order from Anthony Casso. Mike Salerno was to arrange the murder of Lucchese soldier Johnny Boy Petruccelli. Petruccelli had made the mistake of refusing an order to murder a drug dealer associated with the Bonanno crime family by the name of Costabile Gus Ferracci. Ferracci had killed an agent of the DEA and brought a lot of heat on the mob. However, Ferracci and Petruccelli were close, and Petruccelli couldn't bring himself to kill his good friend, who he had also been hiding from the authorities. And so, family boss Vic Amuso ordered that Johnny Boy Petruccelli be murdered. Mike Salerno was told to use an associate by the name of Joey Blue Eyes Cosentino for the hit. Salerno also picked another associate of his crew, Anthony Magana, to be part of the hit team. However, the hit did not go smoothly, as reported in the book Mob Boss. On September the 13th, 1989, the killers had knocked on the door of the apartment of Petruccelli's girlfriend in White Plains. When the man they were looking for answered, the gunman fired. Wounded, Petruccelli staggered back to a bedroom where he had a rifle hidden, an M16. The shooters fled. Petruccelli made it out to the street, only to collapse in front of the building. Out on the street, the gunman panicked. Cosentino took off in a car, leaving Magana behind. Magana tried to walk away, but was grabbed by the police responding to the report of shots fired. Cosentino was arrested later. Michael Salerno personally laid out an initial $27,000 for lawyers for the pair of hitmen. Both Cosentino and Magana were convicted in 1991 for the murder of Johnny Petruccelli. Former Lucchese crime family acting boss turned informant Al Diaco would say of Mike Salerno, "He was a smart guy, very well respected among all the families. He had a lot of class." Michael Salerno found himself in trouble with Anthony Casso when Gaspipe discovered that Salerno was holding back money from a construction dump in Pennsylvania. Casso sent Little Al Diaco to investigate the dump. When confronted about the site, the experienced gangster Salerno insisted the dumping ground was on record with the family. Little Al thought Salerno was bluffing. Withholding money can get a mobster killed. But perhaps Mike Salerno's popularity across Cosa Nostra saved him this time. Anthony Casso decided to seize the operation for himself, and he had Little Al throw Salerno's nephew Frank from the site. Little Al soon realised why Anthony Casso wanted the site so badly. Some weeks it was taking in more than $100,000. At this point, Michael Salerno must have suspected that he was on thin ice with Anthony Casso. In 1990, with indictments about to come down for Amuso and Casso in relation to the famous Windows case, the pair of Lucchese family powerhouses went on the run, leaving Little Al Diaco as acting boss. According to Little Al, just before Casso went on the lam, he left him with the order to kill BRONX Captain Michael Salerno. Anthony Casso telling the new acting boss that he had found out that Salerno was an informant, something that Diaco found hard to believe. And so, despite Little Al Diaco's doubts, he reached out to a soldier in Salerno's crew, Joseph Giampa, to carry out the hit. Joey Giampa enlisted his brother Jay to assist. A few days after giving the order, Mike Salerno was murdered. Al Diaco would later recall, "Joe said it was done. He told me he had called Mike to the auto shop to see about his car. When he got there, he shot him through the heart. He said they put him in the trunk of his car. Mike was still making noises, he told me, so they stabbed him in the throat." Michael Salerno's murdered body wasn't found immediately. As one newspaper reports, a decomposed body found in the trunk of a Jaguar in the Bronx was identified yesterday as that of a capo in the Lucchese crime family, whose power had increased with recent federal mob indictments, detectives said. Michael Salerno, 67, of Ardsley, Westchester County, had been shot once in the chest and dumped into the trunk of his daughter's 1988 black Jaguar. The body was discovered Saturday on Westerfeld Avenue, Wakefield, where the vehicle had been parked for more than a week. Salerno was a capo in the Lucchese mob, according to police intelligence reports. His only arrests were for a weapons offence in 1963 and a robbery in the 1940s. Police were called when a man washing his car complained of an odour coming from the Jaguar. Salerno, wearing a tan sport coat, gold chains, bracelet and rings, was found inside. The car, which belonged to Salerno's daughter, Julia Yadis, had not been reported stolen. Salerno had not been reported missing to police. After killing Mike Salerno, Joseph Giampa took over as captain of Salerno's Bronx crew. In 1992, both Joey Giampa and his brother Jay were acquitted of Salerno's murder, despite testimony from acting boss turned informant Little Al Diaco. So, was Michael Salerno really killed because he was allegedly an informant? Or was there another reason? Al Diaco would state that he felt that Amuso and Casso believed that Mike Salerno was a threat to their power, especially when they were on the lam. Little Al's biography, Mob Boss, writes, "With Gas and Vic on the run, they had to be worried that someone might stage a coup while they were away. A respected leader like Mike Salerno might actually pull it off." It is often also stated that Michael Salerno was annoyed that he had been overlooked with regards to a position in the Lucchese crime family's hierarchy when Anthony Corallo and Tomic Santoro went to prison after the commission case. In addition, Anthony Casso also believed that Michael Salerno had been withholding money from his construction dump operation. An alternative theory is that Salerno's death was actually ordered by acting boss Al Diaco for his own reasons, perhaps feeling threatened by Salerno's popularity. Let me know your thoughts as to why the popular Bronx captain Mike Salerno was murdered. I hope you found that interesting. Till the next time.